1970 to 1979. In the 70s, the world focused on the Middle East. Longtime enemies, Egypt and Israel, signed a peace treaty, while the oil crisis highlighted Western dependence on petroleum. It was also a decade of questionable fashions, questionable music, and questionable ethics. 4 students were shot dead at Kent State in Ohio during the 1970 protests against the American involvement in Vietnam. When the last American troops finally pulled out of Vietnam, the frenzy at the U.S. Embassy stunned television audiences. President Nixon resigned in the face of mounting allegations over his role in the break-in at Democratic campaign headquarters at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C.
Whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Gerald Ford, who had replaced Vice President Agnew, became president without ever having run in a presidential election.
A long national nightmare is over.
The United States celebrated its bicentennial in 1976. Boston schools were forced to integrate through mandatory busing. Jimmy Carter's presidency began with a note of populism as he broke with tradition and walked down Pennsylvania Avenue. The oil embargo caused us to examine recycling and conservation. President Carter negotiated an historic peace between Egypt and Israel. After the Iranian Revolution, hostages were taken at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. President Carter spent the remainder of his term trying to secure their release. That freedom would not come until the next decade.